contains 18 miles of pipeline providing water to 50 new rural customers. The work is underway. The project is nearly complete, and it'll be in jeopardy if there is a freeze permitted to take effect. What does it mean? It means that these 50 homes and families will be without clean, safe, and affordable water. That is unacceptable. The freeze also means that scientists at universities across the state are worried about their jobs and research. Parents of children with disabilities are worried about losing resources for their kids. Adults are worried about losing access to health care and social services. Since then, not one but two judges have issued temporary restraining orders blocking President Trump's measure. As of yesterday evening, that pause has been extended. But let me remind you, this freeze is unconstitutional. The Constitution gives the power to Congress, not to the president, the power of the purse. And the president has no legal authority to withhold funding that was signed into law for Americans on a bipartisan basis. In the 1970s, former President Nixon tried to impound or withhold funding appropriated by Congress, and in response, Congress passed the Impoundment Control Act of 1974, ICA. ICA is still the law of the land, and it prohibits presidents from withholding funds unless Congress approves the decision through outlined procedures. But consider this, the current administration apparently does not care. The president and his people are ignoring the law, creating chaos in hopes that amidst the confusion, some part of his power grab will stick. He is testing the limits of how much he can chip away at our system of checks and balances. There are reports that unelected Elon Musk and his, quote, government efficiency team now have access to the payment systems of the United States Treasury, which is essentially the checkbook of the entire federal government. Elon Musk tweeted to say he's planning to cut $4 billion in federal spending every single day from now till September 30th. $4 billion a day. I'm appalled to see so many of my Senate Republican colleagues falling in line as President Trump and Mr. Musk attempt to strip Congress of our constitutional authority and cause this kind of pain to our constituents. And I'm disappointed to see so many of my Republican colleagues vote to advance the nomination of President Trump's pick to run the Office of Management and Budgeting, Russell Vogt. If this funding stunt is any indication, he is not fit to run that office. The damage from the freeze extends beyond our shores. Bipartisan, congressionally appropriated funds to provide life-saving humanitarian aid and freedom in places like Venezuela, Iran, and North Korea have been ground to a halt. For example, programs like PEPFAR, started by President George W. Bush, and I give him credit for that, with the support of the evangelical community and its partner, the Global Fund, have dramatically curtailed the AIDS epidemic ravaging parts of the world. The program has saved more than 25 million lives. It has been so effective that some have forgotten just how devastating AIDS happened to be in that part of the world, killing more than 2 million a year globally, leaving 14 million orphans in sub-Saharan Africa. Further, USAID Clean Water and Sanitation have provided more than 70 million people with the first time sustainable access to clean water in the last decade. Programs that have a 6-to-1 return in dollars saved in health, economic, and educational terms. Low-cost vaccination programs eradicated smallpox and almost eradicated polio from the face of the earth, something that was unimaginable just a generation ago. Food grown by American farmers helps save millions of lives when war or natural disaster strike. Gutting such programs puts innocent lives and American influence across the globe at risk. It is senseless, counterproductive, and ill-informed. It increases the likelihood of costlier interventions that don't respect borders, including pandemics, war, and failed states. The U.S. cannot and should not stand alone in the world. We are a global leader, and we have an obligation to continue to act like that. But over the weekend, in what sounded like a dystopian story from another world dictatorship, the Trump administration and Elon Musk tried to shutter the U.S. Agency for International Development without congressional approval. Try to imagine that disgraceful scene as one of the world's richest men gleefully guts programs for some of the world's poorest people. And don't be fooled. This isn't about reform, and the U.S. budget deficit won't be solved by gutting USAID. The foreign assistance budget is only 1% of our federal spending, a small, powerful investment that is not only the right thing to do, but the smart thing to do to prevent conflict and famine in failed states, as well as to build alliances and friends around the world. Gutting such programs is a betrayal of American values. Already nations like China sense a strategic opportunity. Under President Trump, when these programs go away, the Chinese will step in. Are Republicans going to roll over and cede congressional power to these bipartisan programs? I sincerely hope not. There's a lot at stake in the first few weeks of this new administration. I want to give the president a chance to show his values, but so far I have to tell you, there's a lot of disappointment. This temporary freeze hurt a lot of innocent people, and this notion now of shutting down USAID, I can't imagine Elon Musk would have it on his conscience that so many helpless people would lose the basics in life for his budget plan. He wasn't elected to anything, and I think we should return to the Constitution, which still guides us today and should. I yield the floor and suggest the absence of a quorum.